this is Greg Kelly. Donate now to Toys for Tots, which works year-round. Go to toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots supports children in need throughout the year with programs like the Toys for Tots Literacy Program. Established in 2008, it has provided over 63 million books to disadvantaged children. The Toys for Tots Literacy Program is committed to providing disadvantaged children with direct access to books and educational resources that enhance their ability to read and communicate effectively. Go to toysfortots.org.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, thank you, Toys for Tots. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Todd Blanche, are you going to bring it home? Fraudsters should be on notice. All right. He's the number one guy at the Attorney General at the Department of Justice for the time being. He is the Attorney General of the United States, Todd Blanche. Let's see what he's got. All right. Let's see what this guy has got.
Of our entire government and the tax system that supports it. We will spare no resources in giving you the tools that you need to bring strong cases and do justice. The new division will bring together data and investigators from across the entire government so that you can track down even the most sophisticated fraudsters and hold them accountable. For example, today I am directing the department to establish the National Fraud Detention Center. This fraud detention center will be a permanent, prosecutor-led, multi-agency data analytics team working to ferret out the most harmful actors defrauding federal government programs. So to the fraudsters who seek to take advantage of our nation, let this be a warning. The department will investigate you, we will charge you with crimes, and we will ensure that you are punished for your actions. The American people deserve an end to the crisis of fraud. And there is no better prosecutor to lead this mission than newly appointed Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald, who's standing to my left. In the words of President Trump, he is very smart, tough, and highly respected. Colin is a veteran prosecutor who has spent his entire career as an assistant United States attorney in the Southern District of California. During his time in the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, he championed public safety and law enforcement, and I am confident that the National Fraud Enforcement Division and the entire department will benefit from his experience and his total commitment to justice. I expect there will be more to come in the next days and weeks from Colin and the anti-fraud task force, but I wanted to tell the American people today what this department is doing to comprehensively attack the fraud crisis in this country. Thank you. I'll take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Attorney General. President Trump has made no secret of the fact that he wants to see his perceived political enemies prosecuted. So now that you're in this position, how are you going to balance that relentless pressure with this administration's promise to end the weaponization of this department?
Well, look, first of all, we have thousands of ongoing investigations and prosecutions going on in this country right now. And it is true that some of them involve men, women, and entities that the president in the past has had issues with and that believe should be investigated. That is his right, and indeed it is his duty to do that, meaning to lead this country. And so I do not view this as pressure. I do not view this as something that is going to keep me up at night, except to make sure that we are investigating every case that we have to the fullest extent of the law and using all the resources.
Hey, what happened? This is a good...
And it's become a word that is supposedly that when we talk about ending weaponization, as if that's a bad thing for us to do. Okay, people in this room for 4 years, some of you, same people, sat here with the last administration when you saw a weaponization of this department, the likes of which had never been seen in history. And some of you are looking down now. And I get it, because you had a president who was indicted 4 times by this department. You had a president who, along with this department, had assistance. So this department helped 2 other local DAs go after the president. You had this department who stood idly by while states tried to keep President Trump off the ballot. Okay, that's what happened the past 4 years. And so when I'm asked questions or when I see reporting about shock and awe at this supposed weaponization of this Department of Justice, it means nothing to me because it's completely false. What we're doing and what we've been doing for the past 14 months is changing this department. We're no longer, people say the president wants to go after his political enemies. No, the president has said time and time again that he wants justice. And if you look at what happened to him, his family, his administration, the agents that protected him, people that happened to just walk by him on a given day, they got subjected to massive investigations by this department. So I understand the question, and I understand the pretty constant role of the media that somehow this department is weaponizing itself, but it happens not to be true. We have tens of thousands of prosecutors all over this country putting bad guys in jail. Okay, that's something that wasn't happening like it should have been happening for the past 4 years. That's going to happen tomorrow, and it's going to happen in the coming days.
Do you believe Pam Bondi lost her job, though, because she was not successful in that pursuit?
You read the same exact communication from the president that I did. Pam Bondi is a trusted friend of President Trump's, will remain so. And no, nobody has any idea why the Attorney General is no longer the Attorney General and I'm the acting Attorney General, except for President Trump.
Two questions. One, kind of housekeeping. Since you are announced as the acting Attorney General today, when is Pam Bondi's last day on the job? And is this a position that you would like full-time?
So there's a bunch of questions there. So I am the acting Attorney General. As far as Pam Bondi's last day on the job, I'm the acting Attorney General. I'm going with her. We're traveling together tomorrow to a pre-scheduled event. So she'll be with me tomorrow. We've been regularly communicating over the past several days for an appropriate transition. She is very much a big supporter of this department, like she was last Thursday morning. She remains the same, and I expect that will continue. As to whether or not I want this job, I did not ask for this job. I love working for President Trump. It's the greatest honor of a lifetime, and if President Trump chooses to keep me as acting, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate me, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and I go back to being the DAG, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and asks me to go do something else, I will say, thank you very much. I love you, sir. So I don't have any goals or aspirations beyond that.
And then just a quick question on fraud, sir. CBS has done a lot of reporting on hospice fraud specifically. What are you doing to clamp down on that? Who exactly are you targeting? Doctors, owners, when it comes to hospice fraud specifically? Yes,
exactly. I mean, everybody that participates in it. I mean, you see that fraud is the question was about hospice fraud. And that's the purest form of stealing from the American people's pockets, in that it is a lot of money designed to help the most vulnerable among us. And so, who are we prosecuting? It depends on who's committing the crime. If it's the doctor, it's the doctor. If it's the hospital organization itself, fine. If it's the families of the patient, fine. Yes.
There's been a lot.
Behind you, sorry.
Thank you. How will you lead this department differently than your predecessor, Attorney General Bondi? Have you had any discussions with the president about what he wants you to do differently?
So I will never talk about any communications I have with President Trump. How I will lead differently, I'm not comparing myself to Attorney General Bondi. I'm going to lead the way that I've been leading as the Deputy Attorney General, which is a job that requires obviously the same type of leadership I need to have now. So,
question on fraud, real quick. I know this position was created differently, this AAG for fraud, by the White House. Will the prosecutors working in this newly created section, will they have a different chain of command? Will they be reporting to the White House or to the Department of Justice?
No. I mean, the Department of Justice prosecutors and support staff that are in the new division are going to report to this man right here, and then this man reports to the Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General. So that's the way that every prosecution and prosecutor in this country works and will continue to work.
Two questions. One on weaponization. Where does the weaponization working group's work stand? Will there be reports coming out of that? Just give us a general update on that. And then, secondly, I just have a question on the fraud front.
So the work is ongoing and has been ongoing for 14 months now. There's been there's been a lot of results already from that work, if not in written work product. I expect you will see written work product on some parts of the work that's been accomplished very, very soon.
Is that driving criminal investigations further?
I'm not going to talk about criminal investigation, what's driving it or not driving it. Go ahead.
Kristi Noem, there's been a lot of questions about the firm tied to Kristi Noem and the ads that came through that was over $200 million in taxpayer money. Is that something that would fall under the purview, potentially, of this new fraud unit?
Well, when you say there's been a lot of questions, you mean you all have decided to write a lot about it, hoping that it generates something. So, I'm not talking about ongoing investigations. If the new fraud division and what the types of cases that it will encompass is pretty broad, but I'm not going to link it to some speculative idea or a question. Yeah.
Acting Attorney General Blanche, my question is this: a number of military and legal scholars have raised questions about bombing a nation's, all of its bridges, all of its energy structure as possible war crimes. What is DOJ's analysis of that position, and could you give us a sense of what you're advising the White House?
We support the Department of Justice, as it always does, supports the Department of War, the White House, Department of State to the extent that's involved, and our intelligence communities to the extent that that's something that's appropriate. And we provide counsel to them, and we have been doing that as you would expect. Go ahead.
You said earlier that this Department of Justice has indicted President Trump 4 times. Can you explain what you base that statement on? Because obviously you now run this department. Are you basing that on your experience as a defense lawyer for the president, or are you basing that on
I read it in what you wrote. What kind of question is that? He got indicted 4 times. He got indicted in Florida, and then he got indicted in D.C., and then they superseded in Florida, and then they superseded in D.C. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's not, am I breaking news there, that he got indicted 4 times by the feds? This department indicted him 4 times.
That's my boy.
There's been a lot of leads been posted online about fraud. In particular, earlier this year, social media influencers have been talking about this. Are there any of those leads that have been something that have that you're not going to exclude from being part of the investigations under this new fraud unit? Particularly some of the things we saw go viral on X earlier this year.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think not just with fraud, with any crime that anybody investigates, whether it's the feds or state or local, we get leads. A lot of the ways that we solve crime is from the community and from tips. And so we saw a lot of investigative journalism or just citizens that identified what they believed to be fraud. And that's the way a lot of our cases start, not just in this space. And so, yes, I expect that I think that if you were an FBI agent, you should be willing to take a tip from anywhere. So, in the back, yeah. You.
How specifically are you staffing the new fraud
division? I can't hear you.
Yeah, how are you going to be staffing the new fraud division? Like, which specific components and units are going to be...
All right, the fraud is the fraud. What was really great there, though, was the spirited defense of President Trump seeking justice, right? And he doesn't lose his rights as a citizen because he's president of the United States. He doesn't lose his rights for free speech. He also doesn't lose his rights as a victim of a crime. You know, they keep saying, well, his political enemies. How could he call for prosecution of his political enemies? Political enemies. You know, political enemies is not code for diplomatic immunity. It's not code for can't prosecute. That was the thing that was said a lot. How could he? Remember when President Trump made that call to Zelensky and they were talking about Joe Biden, right? You should look into this guy. He was just bragging about how much money he was going to take back unless Ukraine fired the prosecutor. I saw him do that. I saw him too. He said it at the Council on Foreign Relations. Just because Joe Biden said something out loud, it does not absolve him of wrongdoing. And just because at that time he wasn't actually a declared candidate, and even if he was, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. Once you declare for president, does that put you in a new and special and unique category? Not really. No, it just means the Federal Elections Commission is going to watch what you do like a hawk, or at least they should. How you're raising money, how you're spending money, that kind of thing. It doesn't mean you're above the law, either here or in Ukraine. Todd Blanche, well done. We shall return.
Sacco and Felix, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered with the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFilas.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Finally, we got an attorney general with some guts. He's not afraid to say it. Doesn't go off about the Dow. The Dow is doing so great. It's not his job. Todd Blanche, everybody, again. Yes.
Put lives at risk, then we'll try to root him or her out as well. So I'm not going to talk about ongoing investigations except to say that, yes, we will always investigate those types of leaks. I'll just take one more question.
I just want to follow up on Perry's question. She had asked about who this division reports to, and I know you said it's a standard practice, but when it comes to referrals, will the White House or the task force that's being led by Vice President J.D. Vance, will they be making referrals, and will you be taking those up? And I also just had a housekeeping question. It sounds like you're putting in like the healthcare fraud section here. You're taking parts from the former tax division. But what about like the civil components that do fraud investigations, like the False Claims Act? I mean, is that part of this too, or is this all strictly criminal investigation?
It's primarily criminal, but I don't think that we want to limit ourselves as I stand here and announce it today, because I don't want to box anybody into a corner for what makes the most sense to do, and so that remains to be seen.
But as far as the referrals go, I mean, even if you're not having an official, it's not you're not reporting to the White House, but what if the White House or somebody in the White House says, we want you to investigate this state or this program? I mean, how do you handle that? Because historically, as you know, since Watergate, there's been a kind of a firewall, if you will, on criminal investigations between the White House and the Justice Department.
I mean, that is the most false statement I've ever heard in my life. There is always communication between a president and his priorities and what the Department of Justice should be focused on and not focused on. That is not a new thing in this administration, although I know it sounds fun to say that it is. So as far as whether we would take a referral from the White House or take a referral from you even, yes. I mean, yes, if somebody knows about fraud, please tell us. And so if the president of our United States says, I have heard that there is ongoing fraud in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like any president before him, I hope that the Attorney General would absolutely say, yes, we'll investigate that. All right. I appreciate that, guys. So thank you.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I like it. There's a wall between the White House and the Department of Justice. Really? If there is, it needs to be eradicated. Going back to Watergate, a president can't say anything about his Justice Department or to his Justice Department. There must be a wall. In other words, unelected career prosecutors, what's better about them? Where's the accountability for them? The Bar Association? They got the worst Trump derangement syndrome at all. What you just saw there is a victory for us, the people, responding to us. Imagine that. Oh, you can't talk to the president. After all, 100 million people voted for him. Well, we can't have that. Yeah, you better believe we can have that. Beautiful.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, it's time to share with you something about the leading contender for president of the United States on the Democrat side that nobody knows but me and shortly you. All right? This is very important. It says a lot about, well, Gavin Newsom, of course, totally unqualified to be president, and I think this will ultimately disqualify him. It says also a lot about our culture, how distracted, weird, dysfunctional, all over the place. Things don't seem to matter anymore. You know, we are one scattered-brained culture. A lot of things going on there, becoming more and more irreligious. We got big tech pulling at us, distracting us every second of every day, right? They want to. The idea of sitting down and reading a book, or actually sitting down and watching a lecture, right? Gavin Newsom gave a lecture, An Evening with Gavin Newsom. You got to show up for that, just for the hilarity of the event. Well, you may have heard, this is where he was boasting about, I got a 960 on my SAT. I'm like you. I can't read. It's just the weirdest thing to say. In the weirdest environment. It seemed to be racially condescending, but look, he's a wild man because he is suddenly trying out a new personality for the first time in his life. Now, I want to go back to something, all right? This is before the SAT stuff, before all that. He talked for a couple of minutes, and it got very, very weird and strange. And no one else in the country has noticed this. If you don't mind, it's a little bit tinny. The first guy you're going to hear is Andre Dickens, I think his name is. He's the mayor of Atlanta, and they sit down for a conversation with Gavin Newsom about his new book, which I looked it up. It was on a Sunday night. You know, for a guy who does a lot of moaning and groaning about, it depends on what my family says regarding this election. My family. Anybody in my family can veto a run for president. Well, just in time, the 14-year-old who's like the stickler on this stuff, I think will say, Dad, you got to do it for the country. He's always invoking his family for different things, right? Oh, my son is a huge fan of Charlie Kirk. Oh, my son hates Charlie Kirk. Oh, my son was so devastated with Charlie Kirk. Oh, my son thought it was good for the country that Charlie just says all kinds of things. Uses his family like he uses everything else. So you ready for this? This is An Evening with Gavin Newsom, condensed, mercifully. Go ahead.
Like for the reader to know more intimately about you and how those two separate lives that you had together and the tough decisions you made and the risk that you had to take, and even growing up with dyslexia and all that, like, what do you want us to take from that and where you are today?
That like so many folks, I put a mask on and my face was starting to grow into it. I think Oliver, I think it was maybe Oscar Wilde who said, the first act in life is we all strike a pose. The second act, no one knows. You got to figure it out. I'm in the second act. And I talk about that. I was trying to be someone I was not. It wasn't that I was inauthentic. It just, I wasn't who I am. Sweaty hands, nervous, just trying to put on a facade. And I walked through that journey and what that gave me, the opportunities and privilege, but what it also took away and who I was becoming. And my mom saw that. She saw those cracks in that mask and she challenged me And so it's a story about resilience, redemption. It's a story about humility and grace. I think it's a very human story. I'm not trying to be someone I'm not.
Go back 5 seconds. You see what's going on here? Go back about 5 seconds if you don't mind, all right? He is admitting to being another person for his entire life. But even that, he can't actually come clean. It's not that I was being inauthentic. It was just that I was putting on facades. It's okay, Carlos. Just pick it up from where you are. All right. 5 seconds if you got it. But he just said there, I was trying to be somebody I was not. I was trying to be somebody I was not. Keep it up.
And so it's a story about resilience, redemption. It's a story about humility and grace. I think it's a very human story. I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. I can't do that anymore. I tried that for a long time, and I wasn't happy. And I say to kids all the time, learn from, don't follow others. Your expression's unique. Nobody else has it. And I've really just, the way we're doing, some of you may have seen some of my social media. I'm on the other. You know this. I'm on the other side. I just am. I'm on the other side. I don't want to dream of regretting anymore. No coulda, woulda, shoulda. It's all out there, and I just want to put it all out there. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you.
Here's the SAT stuff.
I'm a 960 SAT guy.
All right, stop. So the 960 SAT thing is what gets all the attention, right? Oh my God, 960 SAT. What's he talking about? I mean, he's condescending to that audience. But did you hear everything else? He said for years he's been trying to be somebody he's not. He's been putting on facades. And I'm not going to do that anymore. Now I'm going to be a real person. No more woulda, coulda, shoulda. I'm just going to go for it. Now, by the way, he's the 2-term governor of California. What does he have in mind? Now I'm going to go for it. Well, I guess he's going to run for president. But now he's going to be a real person. After conning, I guess, all those millions and millions and millions and millions of people, because he ran, after being appointed to the Board of Supervisors, was reelected. He ran twice for mayor of San Francisco, which involved a very primary contest. He runs for lieutenant governor of California. There's a primary there, right? Multiple elections, 2 terms as lieutenant governor, 2 terms as governor. And now he's going to come clean and tell us who he is. So this is what I put all together, and I like it a lot. You see, Gavin Newsom looks like a politician who's going through something. And why do we know that? How do we see that? Because when he speaks, right? You see that 960 SAT thing. The words come out slightly wrong. The tone never quite settles. And the gestures, the hands, it's all exaggerated and weird. Now, it's not simply that he's making mistakes. It's that what I see, and I think what you just heard and what we have proved, he is operating in a style that is not his and has been all along. And now this effort is changing yet again, and we can see the shift happening right in front of our eyes, and it does not look good. He wants to look good. It doesn't look good. See, what it looks like to me, he's trying to fight Donald Trump on Trump's terms without understanding Donald Trump and the underlying logic that President Trump uses. Now, President Trump's rhetoric sometimes can appear loose. It can sound loose. It can sound chaotic. But it isn't. It's genius. And it is almost always anchored to something real and something that resonates with people. It has direction. It forces attention. He knows what he's doing. Newsom is just imitating. He's imitating the surface. Like, okay, I'll be loose. Okay, I'll provoke people. I'll say things. But there's no structure underneath. And the result is exposure. It's drift. It's weird. There's something going on here. And that moment, 960 SAT guy, right? You never seen me read a speech because I can't read a speech. That was the viral clip. It was replayed. It was dissected. Some people heard self-deprecation. Other people heard condescension. And Atlanta, with a black mayor and a black audience, a lot of people heard racism. But the most revealing thing that he said was earlier. I put a mask on my face, and I was starting to grow into it. I was trying to be somebody I was not. I can't do that anymore. I tried for a long time, and I wasn't happy. So I just want to put it all out there. Now he tells us. This is not rhetorical, flourish. This is not... It's a direct admission that for years, his words, not anyone else's, he was presenting a version of himself that was not real. And this is a major problem for him. All right? A major. You can't tell us your whole career you were somebody else, and now because you're cool on Twitter and you're a hit there with the far left. Campaigns, they're not little momentary things. They are sustained acts of persuasion. You got to be consistent, you got to repeat, and you got to be credible. And now he's telling us, pretty much out of the blue, that all that time I was trying to be somebody else. Now, this is not a minor revision or anything like that. Because people sometimes, hey, there's a new Nixon, right? Remember? This is a total repudiation of the person he was to obtain power. So what the hell is he now, and what was he then? Well, I got a big clue here, folks. A big, big, big hint. Because I read this book. I read Young Man in a Hurry. If you want to walk around, you can. I got a little tourist in here, known as my wife. Hello, darling. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I see you brought me some luncheon.
Of course. You need a lot of fuel for that mouth.
Ooh, chicken cutlets.
Yes.
What do I have on as a side?
Carrot sticks. High in vitamins and fiber.
Good thing there's a McDonald's a half block away. Extra large French fries. Those things. Give them to a carrot. What do I give them to a rabbit? What do I look like? How can you give me these carrots anyway? All right, are you good? Everything good?
Everything good.
All right. I gotta tell the truth on Gavin Newsom, and you can verify. I read this silly book, right?
He did. He left the light on too late. Too many nights to finish that book.
And not only was I finishing it, I was writing things down, and I was always saying, "Can you believe what he said here?" Because he says some crazy things. But the biggest thing, the biggest lie in the book, is actually on the title page. You know what it's called? It's called "Young Man in a Hurry: A Memoir of Discovery." But if you read it, all right, he's not in much of a hurry. He's just kind of loafing around. Young Man in a Hurry suggests, ooh, no, it's not. It's not any of that stuff. He imitates people. He admits it. He admits to imitating people in the book. But the weird part is, I mean, that's weird in and of itself. But it's also weird that he's not embarrassed by it. I guess the word is shameless, right? He's not, there's no issue for him. He's kind of proud of it. Now look, since I did read the book, I'm going to point out that nobody does that. All right. Nobody reads books anymore. Certainly not people in media. They might read, passages that are selected for a friendly interview. I've been reading political memoirs and campaign books. It's astonishing what is now being printed and presented as serious work. I can't believe the publishers are putting this stuff out with a straight face. Factual errors, total contradictions, stories that never happened, scenes that collapse with the most minimal scrutiny, and claims that do not align with events that were witnessed by millions of people. I saw it in Kamala Harris's book. You know, it clashes with everything she said in interviews and tweets and the rest. But it also, she describes the debate, and, you know, President Trump took the first question, I had the second. Everything is backwards. There were 100 million people who watched that debate, and she gets it all wrong. So here's the most damning thing, possibly one of the most damning things in the book. Are you ready? And I haven't brought this up. Who remembers Remington Steele? It was a TV show on in the 80s. I never really thought of it much. It was not a show I was looking for. It was basically a spin-off of Moonlighting. Or Moonlighting was a spin-off of Remington Steele, one or the other. A television show about a man playing a role. Gavin Newsom would not be who he is today without Remington Steele, a series that aired on NBC from 1982 to 1987, precisely during his high school years. Now, it's a female detective, right? And in the show, she invents a fictional male superior, so she'll have credibility with clients, right? They need to see a guy around. And the name Remington Steele is entirely fabricated. And then a charming drifter walks in and like, hey, you can be my boss. It's all an act. And he does it. He assumes the identity, the mannerisms, and begins living as the man who never existed. He is not what he claims to be. He is, at his core, a con man, one who succeeds by making the performance convincing enough that others accept it as real. Wow. Now, this is the weird part. That's just a TV show. What does Gavin Newsom say? Remington Steele, I became obsessed. I started to copy the mannerisms. I decided to adopt it as my attire for school. This is the identity he was looking for. He found this guy and he fashions himself into that guy.
So he's trying to become a phony? Is that what he's doing?
He's literally setting out to become a phony. And then it's emphasized a little bit further. In his 20s, Gavin Newsom is no longer just imitating people. He is refining the process. You know Tony Robbins? I know Tony Robbins. He totally botches what Tony Robbins talks about. Tony Robbins talks about a lot of things. Neuro-linguistic programming, all kinds of things. He boils it down to this. Find a person, study that person, copy that person. You'll be surprised how fast that pose becomes you. Are you crazy? He doesn't value growth. He doesn't value discipline. He doesn't value acquisition. You just observe and copy, and then you become. And it goes on like this, my darling. What do you think so far?
I just can't believe he's been running and ruining California for decades, and based on, having Remington Steele as his sole role model. It's like crazy.
It's in this book, and when I blow this thing up, as I will do, not only on radio, television, video, and I'm becoming a writer. I've written about 3 or 4 things in my life. When I get something and I get really into it, I was published in the New York Times in 2004. I was published in the the Daily News in 2017, the Wall Street Journal in 2019, and then a book of my own, Simon & Schuster, in 2023. And now it's time. It's time for me to open a new front in the media wars. Greg Kelly on Substack. What do you think? Are you into it?
Love it. Love it. And people love it. People love the first story. They've been sending comments.
It's easy to find, and there's more. There's a lot more to say, and sometimes you need to write it down, and sometimes you need to shout it, and sometimes you need to do both. It's an honor and a privilege. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, we are back. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Johnny's in Florida. Hello.
Greg, good afternoon. Greg, I want to know why you got to push for Joe DeGeneres to become Attorney General. He'd be really good. He knows the ins and outs of Washington. And I like him also to take down Jack Smith for what they did to Donald Trump. One other question. Pamela Harris, she would have been president. Could you imagine the state of our country would be right now? That's it.
That would be really terrible. You're right. She came way, way, way too close. It's pretty wild. Yes, Dan, hello.
Yeah, I can't believe for 2 days that you've been teasing this over-the-top psychological analysis of Gavin Newsom. Anybody, just a normal person, realizes he's just a selfish, greedy guy that's willing to step over anybody to get what he wants. It's as simple as that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's why I am fascinated by it. All right, because there's more going on here. Yeah, I think so. You're right. However, this guy who's greedy and weird and all that stuff did twice get elected, actually 3 times when you factor in the recall, right? Became governor of the largest state in the country. He is a political force. He is in the running to be the Democrat nomination. And, you could always, we all know that. But when he reveals it in his own book, when he reveals it in his own statements, and those statements aren't being used against him, and the book actually isn't being read, when there is something in this book that I think is totally disqualifying, that like almost medically disqualifying, and nobody is mentioning it, Dan, I'm going to talk about it. And the thing is, here's the essence of it. At one point he says he can't handle praise, so he had an affair with a staffer, so he would sabotage his life. Now, the only person who knows that is me and you right now, and anybody listening, because nobody's read Gavin Newsom's book. That is the news. And I want to dismantle this campaign. There's a method here. And I don't care, Dan, if you don't find it that interesting, that's your choice. I find it absolutely fascinating that a man as deranged as him can be in plain sight and continue. And some of the top political journalists can interview him about his book and not see what's inside the book. Do you get any of that?
Top journalists are interviewing him with the idea that they actually approve of him as a Democrat being running for a higher office. They just hate Trump. They'll push him through.
Well, that's part of we are going to get to a point where this guy could be on the ballot, right? So you got him on the ballot. Now, part of this, I'll level with you too, is not necessarily just for you, my radio audience, or the cable news audience, or whatever. I want this to hit political journalists where it hurts, right? Because there is no excuse for what they're doing right now. And I will shame them for what they did, and possibly correct them. All right? It's actually amazing.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
This is Roger Stone for American Sovereign Bullion. Since 2020, the U.S. dollar has lost over 20% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to rise. Call 844-272-2428 or go to asbgold.com now to get your free gold and silver guide and learn how to protect your wealth with physical gold and silver delivered to your door or held in a gold IRA today. So go to asbgold.com now. Don't wait for the markets to drop. That's asbgold.com.
Think Verizon is expensive? Think again. Anyone can bring their AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. So bring us your bill. Walk in, run in, pogo stick in, teleport if you can. Ride on the back of a rollerblading yak or fly in on the wings of a majestic falcon. Any way you can, bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal on the best network. Based on RootMetrics best overall mobile network performance, U.S. second half 2025. All rights reserved. Must provide very recent postpaid consumer mobile bill in the name of the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.